Welcome everyone to another Will's Week in Whiskey, the weekly YouTube show where I bring you the headlines and happenings over the past week or so in the world of whiskey. So let's get right to it. We've got a new lineup coming out of the Barton 1792 distillery. They are releasing an ultra premium brand. It's the first to come out of this distillery, and it's going to be called the Thomas S. Moore Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And now this is an attempt to define a new category of ultra premium bourbon, and they are calling it extended cask finished. So what we're seeing with this lineup of Thomas S. Moore bourbon is going to be three expressions in this first release of cask finished bourbons. So the first one's going to be a port finish, a Chardonnay finish, and a Cabernet finish. Now, this lineup is named after Thomas S. Moore, who founded the distillery in 1889. The distillery we now know as Barton, there in Bardstown. But what we're going to see is them selecting casks from around the world, whether it be cognac or Cabernet or port. And I mentioned the three that are in the first lineup that are going to have an extended time of finishing in those casks of 1 to 3 years. So they're not just putting it in there for a month or 3 months to try to get a little bit of difference on the end, but they're actually going to let it rest in these barrels, these finishing barrels, for an extended period of time. So that first one, the port cask, is going to come in at 98.9 proof. The Chardonnay cask is 97.9 proof, and the Cabernet cask is 95.3 proof. Now, I'm really excited about 2 out of 3 of these. I'm not the biggest port finish guy. I know a lot of people are. It's a very popular finishing profile, but it's not my favorite. But I am really excited to try the Chardonnay cask and the Cabernet cask. I had a Abraham Bowman from a few years ago that I believe was a Merlot cask. So I like that red wine, that full-bodied red wine finishing flavor. Can't wait to try that one. And then the Chardonnay cask is really interesting to me because I've liked French oak finished, and typically a Chardonnay cask is going to be a French oak, and I hope that it is that kind of profile that I would really like to get out of a finished cask. So looking forward to those. Can't wait to try them. They're retailing at $69.99, which is, I believe, the same retail price as the Old Charter Oak series. So kind of that mid-range pricing. The Sazerac company, so whether it be Buffalo Trace or Barton, they always have these very reasonable MSRPs. That doesn't mean that it lasts. A lot of the times that means that they're bought up pretty quickly because it's not overpriced in the marketplace. But then you see, because they are harder to get, people flipping them for more money. So let's hope that we don't see these completely gone, that no one gets to try them, but I hope that they do well, and I can't wait to try them. Next, we have 2 stories out of Four Roses. One, I didn't get to talk about. It was a few weeks back that they announced plans for an expansion of their current visitor center in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. So they're going to do an over 14,000 square foot expansion at that iconic Spanish mission style architecture distillery that's there in Lawrenceburg. It's one of the more unique looking distilleries because it does have that Spanish architecture, which is not very common in the countryside of Kentucky, but it is beautiful. It's one of the prettiest and more unique, iconic distilleries that you can visit. So they're going to have a 14,000 foot expansion to this. It's going to have an additional covered outdoor patio and cocktail area because it's important right now to expand. And you see a lot of distilleries do this, whether it's Heaven Hill, Buffalo Trace did a gift shop overhaul as well. The Whiskey Row in downtown Louisville, that is a big deal now, adding options for visitors, for tourists to come in and enjoy your distillery. It's very important for these distilleries to keep doing this, to keep expanding and adding to what they offer for the visitors and help grow their brand that way. I'm looking forward to it. I really like Four Roses, and I think that having an upgraded experience there will be very beneficial for them. I'm excited about that. They're looking to complete the visitor center expansion to by the end of 2021. So sometime next year, there's probably going to be a lot of construction going on at the Four Roses Distillery as they move forward with this, but it's an exciting time for the bourbon tourism side of things, not just the bourbon consumption side of things. Additionally, the second news item that they announced just a few days ago is that they have opened their newest warehouse in the Cox's Creek, Kentucky location. And this is Warehouse Y. So if you're unfamiliar with the way Four Roses is, it's a little bit unique because they have distilling operations out of the historic Lawrenceburg facilities, but then they have bottling and warehouse operations about 40 miles away in Cox's Creek, Kentucky. It's just outside of Bardstown. So this new warehouse is going to be it's the second that they've been able to add since 2015 when they started a $21 million expansion project to the storage facility that they have. And this is great because more storage facility space means more barrels of whiskey, which means more of it for us to drink. So I'm excited about it. I like that they're investing not only in the tourism side, by expanding their visitor center, but also in the production side by having more storage facilities. And this warehouse Y, will be able to hold over 24,000 barrels. And it's also unique because their warehouses take up a lot of space. To get these 24,000 barrels, it takes up a big footprint of area because they are one of the few distilleries and probably the only major distillery brand. I'm sure there are some craft distilleries just out of real estate can probably make this claim, but they're one of the only big distilleries, big brands that use a single story rick warehouse. And so what that means is that they don't have some of these warehouses you see, Heaven Hill, for instance, they're very tall. They go up many floors, maybe 4 or 5, 6 stories of warehouse aging. All the barrels are on one level. Now, obviously they're stacking up within that rick house, but it doesn't go above that single story height, which gives a more consistent aging across all their barrels. You know, from other distilleries, they pull for certain brands from different areas of the rick house because of the way that proof is affected and evaporation and sunlight and heat and warmth and cool. So all those things, it's much more unified with the Four Roses, and where you see the differences are in their yeast strains and mash bills is where you get the flavor differences from this distillery. So big expansion there. Looking forward to seeing them continue to expand their storage facilities as well as their visitor center. That's going to do it for this week on Will's Week in Whiskey. Please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you'll get notifications when I post a new video, when Grease posts videos, or when I go live. I've been doing live reviews where I'm calling them a fresh crack, where basically I open a brand new bottle of whiskey that's on my shelf or that I just picked up from the store, and I give you kind of my first impression of it right out of the gate, what I think about it. So I'm going to continue to do more of those. I typically do them live and then I'll post them later. But they're a lot of fun and a good way to try new things and see what I think. So if you're not familiar with us, we're the podcast. We do a podcast about whiskey that you can subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts, or you can become a patron and see video of that at patreon.com/thepodcast. Once again, subscribe to this channel, ring the bell. Thank you so much for watching Will's Week in Whiskey. We'll talk to you next time. Cheers.